I think we can then, Gulshan ma'am, shall we begin?
I think so. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Dada Sham, a very good morning to the chairperson of the Sadhu Vaswani mission, Mrs. R.A. Vaswani, the working chairperson, Didi Krishna Kumari ji, all the dignitaries of the Sadhu Vaswani mission, the heads of institutions of all Sadhu Vaswani institutes of learning, the chief guests for this morning, Ms. Darshana Muzumdar and Ms. Madhavi Kolte, the principal in charge, Dr. Jaya Rajgopalan, the vice principals, faculty, and dear students. I welcome you to a session on vegetarianism as a way of life in connection with the 142nd birthday celebrations of Sadhu T.L. Vaswani. Sadhu Vaswani once said, "Stand up with faith in him who leads us on, out of storm into calm, out of darkness into light." Let us start this morning's celebration by standing with faith in him through an Anjali Bhajan, which Dada has offered to his Guru, Sadhu T.L. Vaswani.
दम दम रहूं मैं तेरे, दम दम रहूं मैं तेरे रूबरू, दम दम रहूं मैं तेरे रूबरू, मेरे प्यारे मुर्शिद मेरे Thank you for that soulful bhajan. Dada J.P. Vaswani once wrote, and I quote, "We cannot separate ourselves from those whom we call the lower animals. They are lower in the scale of evolution, but they, like us, are members of one family. We must not take away the life of any creature. Indeed, we must never take away that which we cannot give. And as we cannot restore a dead creature to life,
We have no right to take away its life, unquote. This is one among many such lessons that Dada J.P. Vaswani learnt from his guru, Sadhu T.L. Vaswani. Let us listen to Dada J.P. Vaswani's message for us today in the form of an Updesh.
Friends and fellow devotees of the Lord, we have been observing the 25th of November, the birthday of Sadhu Vaswani, the saint who pleaded for mercy to all creatures that breathe the breath of life. We have been observing the 25th of November as an International Meatless Day, and the response that we have received has increased with the years. Last year, we received over 4 million pledges from people belonging to different countries, some of them as distant as Brazil. People who said that they would observe the 25th of November as a meatless day and abstain from eating all food of violence, flesh, fish, fowl. We have taken a step forward. Now we are observing the 25th of November not merely as an International Meatless Day, but also as an Animal Rights Day. Men have their rights. Do animals have no rights? Men have their rights. Do they not have duties towards the animals who have befriended and served man since the dawn of creation? I believe the time has come when we must get together and formulate a charter of animal rights and a charter of man's duties towards the animals. Every animal has certain fundamental rights. The very first fundamental right of every animal is the right to live. We cannot take away that which we cannot give. And as we cannot give life to a dead creature, we have no right to take the life of a living one. Are you aware, my friends, that on an average, a human being eats up 750 animals during a lifetime? 750 animals, every one of whom loves life as much as those that eat them up. The time has come where we must decide once and for all that all types of human exploitation must cease. The time has come when we must recognize the moral inviolability of the individual, both human and non-human, just as the black people do not exist as resources for the whites, just as women do not exist as resources for men, even so, animals do not exist as resources for men. We must formulate a charter of animal rights. Are you aware of the cruelties that are perpetrated upon animals day after day, on the roadside, in our laboratories, in our slaughterhouses all over the world? Are you aware that there are millions of creatures? They are imprisoned in tiny cages. They do not get fresh air. They cannot move. They do not get sunlight. They are forced to stand in their own filth all their life. Are you aware of animals who are stunned and hung in line upside down for their throats to be cut? Are you aware of the atrocities that are perpetrated upon the animals day after day? And this nightmare goes on. This nightmare goes on every day in the case of millions of creatures who would prefer to die any time rather than live in those conditions which are worse than hell. I must not speak more to you today, but with folded hands, let me appeal to every one of my viewers. With folded hands, let me appeal to every one of them to abstain from eating food of violence, on the 25th of November. The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. Sing with me this song, my friends. The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. It is a meatless day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dada. Dada's words are always inspiring. Respecting all life forms is truly the need of the hour. We must all lead with love, not violence. I would now like to invite the working chairperson of the Sadhu Vaswani mission, Krishna Kumari Didi, to please say a few words.
Dada Sham, to each and every one of you, today we all have gathered together to offer the love and homage of our hearts to our most revered founder, Sadhu Vaswani. My dear ones, Sadhu Vaswani, who was he? Words will never be able to describe him. He was verily an awakener of humanity. His profound scholarship, his inborn wisdom, and his penetrating insight influenced and transformed the lives of many. My dear students, he believed in the religion of reverence, reverence for all life. He embraced all in his fold without discriminating between man and man, between man and all creation. He believed that education without sympathy is dry. He also said that the hard shell of commercialism has covered our original nature and our hearts have become cold and rigid. A visionary, he could see that cruelty and violence will soon be replaced by compassion and mercy. He said the time has come when all killing will be regarded as cruelty. All life is sacred, he urged us. Birds and animals are our younger brothers and sisters in the one family of creation. Yes, dear friends, there was a time when vegetarian diet was regarded as nutritionally indeficient. But research has proved that vegetarian diet is not only nutritious, but it enhances our strength and our vitality. In fact, it is safer, it is healthier, and it prevents a number of diseases, including clogging of arteries, different types of cancers, gastrointestinal diseases, obesity. The list is almost endless. Many of you must have watched the documentary, The Game Changers, which shared with us stories of athletes who, by switching over or by adapting a plant-based diet, they surpassed their own records, though they were gold medalists at the Olympics. My dear friends, yes, even in Oxford, there was a research carried on by Dr. Springman, and he proved that we can save $1.1 trillion if we adopt a vegetarian diet. And this amount is saved in global healthcare. We could save that much amount of costs which otherwise we would spend on global healthcare. Production of meat, he said, is a wasteful use of our precious land and water resources. Just to satisfy our palate momentarily, we overlook the cruelty that we inflict on these animals. We abuse the environment. Man, it is said, is the crown of God's creation. Then is it not our duty to be protectors of the environment, to be protectors of nature, to be protectors of our animals? Factory farming is unsustainable, is environmentally unsustainable. Livestock, it contributes to environmental destruction. By replacing meat diet with vegetarian diet, we can reduce the carbon and greenhouse gases. My dear friends, there are so many advantages of adapting a vegetarian lifestyle. Even if we get a little cut, what do? We immediately rush and we put a band-aid. But do we ever think, do we ever imagine the pain, the suffering, the agony that we inflict on these animals who have the same life as we do, who feel the same pain as we do, and who live in families just as we do? It is strange that we pour our love on pets, but we kill animals for our food. The time has come when we all should realize that animals also are our younger brothers and sisters in the one family of creation. Beloved Dada often said to us that if we had to kill these animals with our own hands, the gruesome sight would haunt us, and many of us would not touch non-vegetarian food. It is said that if slaughterhouses and abattoirs had glass walls, many would not draw nigh to non-vegetarian food. I recall a story in the life of Leo Tolstoy. He was a very staunch vegetarian, and he had organized a huge dinner party. Obviously, it was to serve only vegetarian meals. One of his guests, a lady, she insisted that she must be served chicken. And do you know what did Leo Tolstoy do? When he escorted her to the dining table, the lady saw that a chicken was tied on her chair. "What is this?" she immediately screamed. And what did Leo Tolstoy say? He said, "My conscience does not permit me to kill animals, and if you insist on eating them, I would like you to do the killing yourself." And we are told that that lady gave up eating non-vegetarian food. Yes, my dear friends, all life is sacred. And as beloved Dada said to us in his beautiful words just a little while ago, that the time has come when we all must think of making this dietary change. Some of you may well ask, scores of people in this world eat non-vegetarian food. Millions of animals are being killed daily. What difference will I make? And let me close with a beautiful, a touching incident from the life of our most beloved Dada. I recall I was traveling with him in Singapore, and Dada's eyes fell on a lady who had caught a couple of fish. The fish were gasping for breath. They were struggling in her hands, and Dada's compassionate heart could not see it. He went forward, approached the lady, and said to her, "Why don't you throw these fish back into the water? They are for my breakfast," she immediately replied. And with compassionate eyes, Dada said to her, "Life is a gift from God. We do not have the right to take away that which we cannot give." And this lady, once again, she said, "But there are scores of fish that are being caught." And what was Dada's reply? It brought tears to the eyes of the lady. Dada said to her, "I do not know about the scores of fish that are being caught daily, but I know that your one generous, compassionate act can give the gift of life to these two fishes." And immediately the lady throws these two fishes back into the water. Yes, my dear friends, you can make a difference. I can make a difference. We all can make a difference. As beloved Dada said to us, each of us eats so many animals every day. And if we stay away from non-vegetarian food, those animals will receive the gift of life. Let us all come together, especially on the 25th of November. It is a day that brings to all of us this awareness that we must stay away from all food of violence. My dear friends, maybe our generation may be looked upon as a generation that did not care much about the environment. But let this generation, the generation of you youths, be looked upon as a generation that reversed the damage. We didn't do enough to save the environment, but you must do all you can to reverse this damage. This is the message of the Meatless Day. Let me once again request you kindly, not only you, but get us pledges from your friends, from your relatives, from your colleagues, from your neighbors, and from all you know, just to eschew from all food of violence just for one day. And you will be creating a new world, a world of peace and plenty, of joy. I thank you, Dada Shah.
Looks like Komal has lost her connection. Thank you so much, Krishna Kumari Didi, for this illuminating speech. Thank you once again. Now we move on to the next part of the session. And I would now like to invite our first guest for the morning, Ms. Darshana Muzumdar. Darshana Muzumdar has been an animal rights activist ever since she went vegan more than 9 years ago. She went vegan for ethical reasons after watching the documentary Earthlings, but later learned about the consequences our food has on our health and the environment. She graduated from IHM Dadar, or Dadar Catering College as it is known, more than 35 years ago, and worked at the Taj as a trainee chef for a year before moving to the Middle East, where she switched professions and taught English as a foreign language for 14 years. She got involved in animal welfare activism through the Federation of Indian Animal Protection Organizations and restarted the dog birth control program in Pune by working with the Pune Municipal Corporation. She also co-organized 2 vegan fests at Phoenix Mall and started the Vegan Super Chef Challenge in Institutes of Hotel Management in 2014. She has also done investigative work to expose the cruelty in the animal exploiting industries, especially the dairy industry, and has organized countless outreach events and workshops in Pune and other cities. At present, she is India campaign manager for $1 Million Vegan. Thank you so much, Darshana ma'am, for joining us this morning. And I would now like to invite you to please take over.
Thank you so much, Vaishali ma'am, for this introduction and for inviting me to this program. I've always been very happy to associate with the Sadhu Vaswani mission because it is such an ethical organization and their goal is to create a kinder world. And my association with Gulshan ma'am has been so beautiful. Every time I have interacted with her, or I have been invited with her by her for any sanctuary events, I have seen how beautifully you connect with your students, and that has been really inspiring. And watching the speeches by Dadaji and also by Didi, Krishna Didi, has been again very inspiring, and your message of compassion is absolutely beautiful. So let me also share what I have learned through my experiences. I'd like to share my screen. I'll just turn on my PowerPoint and slideshow. Okay, just a moment. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, great. So vegetarianism as a way of life. First of all, I would like to say that vegetarianism is a word that says vegetarian means anything that comes from plants. Sadly, it has been contaminated, and eggs and dairy have been included into vegetarianism, although these are not vegetables. They come from animal products. So let us use the new term veganism because that helps us understand that there is no animal product at all. So okay, so what do you think when you see these beautiful images of these little children holding animals? What comes to your mind? Doesn't it make you feel happy? And you know, it just creates so much compassion and it brings smiles to your faces, right? Even the child who is holding the fish, I'm sure that this child does not even understand that the fish is dead, but he just wants to show love. It's a natural instinct in all of us as children to show love and to care for other beings. But sadly, as we grow older and as society conditions us, and you know, the things that we see and are done to us without us realizing changes things a lot. Now, if you look at this image, these are also children, but they are not doing the same thing that those previous children were doing. And this is really sad because children on the whole are very compassionate. But because of circumstances or because of what families have taught them, they turn and do things which are so not their own feelings. And this is what happens with most of us. What happens is, even without realizing it, we are fed things that we have no idea about. For example, I grew up in a non-vegetarian family, but I was never given the opportunity to choose whether I want to be part of this food system, which is a very violent food system. They never explained to me that these are the animals that we care for, and now we are going to take their life, we are going to remove the skin, the feathers, or whatever, and scales, and you know, cook it and give it to you to eat. Had somebody explained it to me as a child, I don't think I would have accepted it. I would have said, no, I would want to protect these. I would want to love these animals. So it is something I think we need to think about because this is not who we are. This is something that is, you know, indoctrinated, or rather, we are manipulated into being part of the system, or we are indoctrinated into the system without us realizing what exactly it is. And then we get used to the taste, we get used to the flavors, and we connect the violence with celebration, which is really sad. Because when we actually think about it, this is not what we would want to be. Just a moment, let me put it back to the other screen. All right. Now, the violence in, you know, eating chicken, eating fishes, or eating goat, or, you know, animals whose lives are taken is very obvious, isn't it? We know that we are taking away the life of that animal, and it is very, very obvious. But what about things like dairy and eggs? If you look at these images, what do you see? You see mothers and mothers are feeding their babies. But when we drink milk, we do not even realize that we are doing something which is so unnatural. Now tell me one thing, when does any animal produce milk? Isn't it only when they have a baby? That is the only time that milk is generated in the body of that animal. And that is nature's way of saying, okay, I'm going to create a liquid form of food because your baby doesn't have teeth, is not capable of eating anything. And so I will create this food for your baby so that your baby will grow up in a very short time by just having this nutrition. And it fulfills, milk of the baby of any animal fulfills the nutritional needs only of the baby of that species. For example, cat milk will have nutrition for a cat's baby, whereas elephant's milk will have nutrition for an elephant's baby. A horse's milk will have nutrition for a horse's baby, human milk for human baby, cow milk for cow baby, goat milk for goat baby, rat milk for rat baby. So basically, if we look at it, milk is baby food. Is there any other human animal that drinks, is there any adult animal that drinks milk? I don't think so. No horses, no cows, no elephants, no rats drink milk. Cats and dogs drink milk because we give it to them. But otherwise, no animal in nature drinks milk after they have stopped drinking mother's milk. This is also sad that, we want milk, so we have to make that animal into a mother. And that is done very forcefully. The vet, he comes and he inserts his arm into the rectum of the cow or a buffalo forcefully and inserts a tube with the bull semen into her vagina. Now, this is done by holding the cow in a stand called the rape stand, which is really distressing. And this is done just 2 or 3 months after she has delivered a baby. So she is made pregnant so that she will have a child again, so that we can take her milk. Now, a cow or a buffalo produces only 10 to 12 to 14 liters of milk every day. And if you allow the baby to be free and drink mother's milk every 2 or 3 hours, like babies of all species do, that 10 to 12 liters of milk will get finished by the end of the day. So it is not like she is producing more milk than we need. She's producing just enough milk to keep the baby alive and nourish the baby so that the baby grows. But what do? We separate the mother and the child. We don't allow the baby to drink mother's milk. And if it is a male baby, they starve the baby to death. They don't give the baby any milk because if the baby grows up, the male calf is not going to be able to produce milk and is of no use to the dairy farmer. So he starves the baby to death. Now, I don't blame dairy farmers, but because this is a general standard practice that is, taught to these dairy farmers that they have to do this if they want to make the business profitable. So we are exploiting the reproductive system. We are exploiting motherhood in order to make our tea and coffee. And this is something that we do not really would choose to do. As an individual, I ask people, would you steal the food of a baby? And nobody says yes. They all say it is wrong, it's an injustice. And I say, but we are still doing it. Why do we do it then? They say for nutrition or for calcium. And I say, no, that's not the reason. The reason is because everybody all around the world is doing it. Now think about this. Is this something natural? Would anybody think this is natural? Going and drinking the milk of a cow like that. It makes us laugh, doesn't it? So what we are doing is really, really weird. Now, if I offered you a cup of tea made with dog milk, what would you say? You'd say, ew, I don't want it. If I offered you milk made of human milk, again, you would say, ew, that's disgusting. But if I offered you tea made with cow or buffalo milk, you would accept it happily. Why is this? So this is not because you choose to do something like this, but because it has been normalized for us. And this is called societal conditioning. We do these things not because we choose to do it, but because everybody all around the world is doing it. When I first got into animal activism, somebody told me, oh, you love dogs and you eat chicken, because I was a hardcore non-vegetarian at that time. And I said, I'm not going to stop eating chicken. I love eating chicken. Everybody eats chicken. And I didn't realize that it was such a truth bomb, because I ate chicken because everybody ate chicken, and because I had been conditioned to look at it as something normal, something natural, and something necessary. So people, when they make things look normal, like when we celebrate with cake made with eggs and milk and butter. There is so much violence in it, but the violence has been associated with something really enjoyable or a joyful event. And we do not understand that there is so much violence in it. So we need to start questioning. Now, we need to take our power back into our hands, and we need to start questioning. And we have the choice. It is a choice. We can make this choice of asking what is right and what is wrong. We should not be listening to the world or society that is telling us what is right and what is wrong. So when I went vegan first, when I decided not to eat any animal products, because I suddenly saw the violence when I watched the documentary Earthlings. And I recommend all of you watch it, because it is eye-opening. And I think we have the right to know. It is only when I came to know that I said, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I felt like I was going against the whole world, because everybody I knew was non-vegetarian. There were very few vegetarians I knew. And even then, vegetarianism was itself violent. And I had no idea that this is like such a violent industry. But we can take our power back. And when you take your power back, you feel good because you are living your own values. And the most important thing, never let go of your compassionate heart. Because as we grow, the violence is normalized for us. And we don't even realize that we are part of this violent food system. It's not only food, it is entertainment, your clothing, everything you see around, you will suddenly start seeing so much violence in it. And if as children, we were taught that we need to respect all life, everything should be the same. Everyone should be treated the same. I don't think anybody would choose to be a part of this violent food system. And your heart and your conscience are yours. They are the ones who make your life beautiful, who allow you to be who you are. So never let go. Take care of your heart. And now what do you do with your values? So you need to value all lives, whether it is human life or it is animal life. So whether it is a different race, a different caste, I don't think I need to tell you all this, because the Sadhu Vaswani mission works on this. Let us value all our lives. Let us not look at ourselves as us being at the top of the pyramid, but as being part of this system, part of the ecosystem. Let us value truth, right conduct, peace, all these values that we have. Let us value them and be proud of our values and be vocal about our values. We need to stand up and say, okay, this is what is wrong, and I will not be a part of this system, and I will want to stop it. So let us be vocal, let us speak up, let us not keep our values hidden away, but make sure that everybody knows that these are our values, and you will see that people start respecting you for those values, and they will start joining you. Now, you know, suddenly when you say, where do I start? Okay, if I don't eat non-veg, if I don't eat dairy, then what do I eat? Actually, if you go to see, it's very, very easy. All you need to do is eat your roti, sabji, dal, chawal, kuchumbar, papad, chutney, achar without any ghee or without any dahi or milk. And it's plant-based and it's violence-free. It's a non-violent or ahimsa kind of food. And I have written an Indian vegan cookbook, which has only and only traditional Indian foods. So it's not even like, you know, fancy cheese or fancy sauces or anything. These are traditional Indian foods, which are so easy to make and which we make every day in our homes. And you can, for each recipe, I have given the healthy version. So there is something called whole food plant-based nutrition. And I think if you go through the book and you read the initial part, you will understand that if I eat plant-based foods, but I eat them whole in the sense that I do not peel them or I do not process them. Oops, where did it go? Okay. Anyways, I think this is the end of the show, so I will stop it. And basically, if you go to see, let me put this slide. So if you go through this book, you can see that you will eat a healthy plant-based diet and all your diseases will disappear. That is the beauty of this. So you nourish your body with what it is supposed to eat, and you will actually see the benefit. So thank you so much for everyone, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Muzumdar. I think we will all agree that compassion is a basic instinct in all human beings. We just need to nurture that emotion and perhaps undo our societal conditioning. Let us all learn to embrace our hearts. Next, I'd like to take the opportunity to invite Ms. Madhavi Kolte. Ms. Kolte is a law graduate, but a sculptor by profession, who has had a very successful career both in India and abroad until she learned about the escalation of the environmental crisis. Though she treats her artwork as a dialogue with Mother Earth and always invites viewers into the conversation in order to reach a wider audience, she devotes a significant amount of her time to environmental activism. She has volunteered with various environmental organizations and held a fundraising show while pursuing a diploma with the Ecological Society in Pune. After becoming a certified climate healer, she co-organized the Pune Health and Sustainability Conference in 2019. The motivation to create an NGO, Jeev Bhavna, was the direct result of the conference's success when Madhavi, along with Sanjeev and Julie, her co-organizers from the conference, understood the necessity of a grassroots, India-centered organization that seeks a paradigm transformation for the betterment of all. I welcome you, ma'am, and I hand over to you.
Thank you, Komal. And I'm very grateful to Vaishali and the organizers of this event to have me here to speak about the impacts of positive impacts of a vegetarian diet. And I am really overwhelmed to hear the speeches by Sadhu Vaswani and Krishna Kumari ji and the information which Darshana gave to the audience today. I always knew about Meatless Day because I've grown up in Pune. But just as Darshana said, that we are so conditioned in our day-to-day living that we don't tend to take certain things seriously. And the same thing happened with me. I come from a hardcore non-vegetarian family. And it never ever occurred to me to question what I'm doing or to know or to try and understand the importance of Meatless Day. And it so happened, and I think it is my luck, that I stumbled upon this lifestyle called veganism, which really changed my life. And it changed my life to such an extent that I rushed to do something about it and make sure that more and more people get to know about it. And I'm very thankful to Darshana for having motivated me to do this, because of my family responsibilities and my profession, I was not willing to take up veganism activism. but eventually I did take that step. Just as Darshana has mentioned, when we all speak about vegetarianism, we usually include eggs and milk in our diet. And purely from science point of view, what vegetarianism really means is consuming food sourced only from plants and vegetation. So that includes leafy vegetables, fruit vegetables, and food grains, and tubers, and this kind of food. When we include milk, which is actually secretion of animals, or eggs, which are periods of hens, it really doesn't come from plants. So scientifically speaking, it cannot be called vegetarian. So it's very important for us to understand what vegetarian really means. And we as a nation have been predominantly known as a vegetarian nation until about a few decades ago. And then this transition started happening because of Western influences and aspirations to show our status, which reflected in how we ate. And so we, next slide, please, Vaishali. Sorry, I skipped this slide, but over these 40 years, there's been a lot of conditioning happening on our minds about what is vegetarian food. And while, just a minute. The next slide, please, Vaishali. What is vegetarianism? Yeah. So when over the period, we started consuming more of dairy products, in the form of cheese and ice creams and yogurts and many new things which have come nowadays. And this is how our diet started including more of dairy products, which were more in the processed state than what milk as it is would be. And next slide, please. How India eats. Yeah. And then this is how we see the transition of the Indian population towards non-vegetarian diet. There have been surveys made by the government itself. And now, as we see, predominantly we have non-vegetarian diet being consumed in our country. And if we take the true meaning of vegetarian, then we are mostly eating food sourced from animals. Next. And as we heard Sadhu Vaswani ji speak, I would like to reiterate that all the great leaders we had, or the spiritual leaders we had, they all knew the importance of compassion. They all followed a compassionate lifestyle, and they knew where exploitation was coming from, and they never supported it. I have an example before you of Pythagoras, who was a great mathematician, and we all have been implementing his principles. But nobody really came forward with what his lifestyle was like and what important message he had for people when he said that as long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. For as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. And this is what we see, a result of growing greed for animal-based foods. We are literally reaping what we are sowing. And we are seeing the changes before us in the present times when we see the global health crisis or the climate crisis, or we see the social injustice. These are all results of our continued exploitation of animals. And just to touch on each of these aspects a little more elaborately. Next slide, please, Vaishali. I'd like to briefly explain to you about how our consumption of animal-based food is impacting our environment, which is the most pressing issue right now. If any one of you following the newspaper articles, which are talking about the COP26, which happened recently, in which talking about the methane emissions. Well, animal agriculture, or the livestock which we are rearing on this planet, is responsible for major greenhouse gases. For a population of around 7.9 billion people on this planet, we are slaughtering daily more than 80 billion animals and trillions of fish annually. And this has resulted in immense emissions of greenhouse gases, which are way more than the total transportation on this planet. So they are like 51 to 81% more than other forms of emissions. And further, animal agriculture has many devastating impacts on the environment, like deforestation and degradation of the soil, loss of biodiversity, loss of habitat, water scarcity, and eutrophication of rivers and ocean dead zones. And this list is just something for you to know right now, but there's lots we can discuss in details. And further, as a country, why we need to be concerned. Next slide, Vaishali, is about the milk production happening in India. We just heard about what is wrong with the animal industry. And why India needs to be concerned is because we are the leaders in animal-based products. We have the world's largest livestock population. And for example, one of the products which is really the largest in the world is dairy. And because of that, we are raising the largest number of livestock in the world, which is having a very detrimental impact on our environment, especially on our water resources and our air. And in the next couple of slides, I'll explain that to you. So the next slide is about greenhouse emissions in India, particularly the ones which have been spoken about now lately, especially when the IPCC report was published, where nitrous oxide, which is 285 times more potent than carbon dioxide, and methane emissions, which are 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide in heating up the planet. These are coming at a very high levels in India amongst the nations, if you see in the charts which I'm showing you right now. And this is a big concern because as per the latest studies, which are pointing out to more and more results of our human activities, especially when it comes to our food systems, how they are leading to a warmer planet. And now we're at a stage where the scientists have clearly said that we have just 5 to 6 years to keep the temperature of the planet to at least 1.5 degrees Celsius, which will stop the climate events, which are catastrophic right now, from going way out of control, of becoming more, hazardous for us. As it is, we are in a catastrophic situation right now where we are witnessing extreme climate events on a daily basis. I think you must be aware what has happened in Canada. A country like Canada has declared emergency in one of its areas because of the extreme flooding that's happened, and thousands of animals have died, and thousands of people are homeless with their house flooded. And we have just had news about Andhra Pradesh having extreme rains where many people have died. And this has become a very common news element. I think if we, most of us agree, will follow the news, will agree on this. Next slide, please. And then one touchy aspect for us in our day-to-day lives is water. When we think about conserving water, we are very conservative of its use in our home use. But in reality, where water is really used to such a great extent is not known to the common man. So while hardly about 8% is used for domestic use, we are using more than 80% in agriculture. And under this agricultural sector, animal agriculture is a subsector which is consuming the most of the water. So for example, for dairy, the consumption of water is 1,000 times more than a person would use for his daily consumption of bathing and washing hands and etc. And this is just a conservative estimate. It can go up to even 4,000 by the way certain systems work in the animal industry. Next slide, please. And this is what I told you about impacts of animal agriculture on the environment in a nutshell. But as we come towards the impacts on health, there is irrefutable scientific evidence that animal-based foods, which includes meat, dairy, fish, eggs, anything which comes from animals, is having a huge detrimental effect on our health. It is the leading cause of chronic diseases like diabetes and cardiovascular diseases, and a lot of skin disorders and infertility and many such things. where these studies have proved that the animal-based food is the leading cause. Today, India is topping the list of diabetes patients or cardiovascular diseases. Also, the current pandemic, what we experience, is a result of raising animals. So whether it's the intensive farming or where we are clearing land for grazing animals or growing feed for them, we are completely disrupting the environment, which is naturally entitled to every living being on this planet, which is leading us to these crises. Next. And lastly, it's not just our environment and health, but also it's a question of climate justice. Because we as humans, we are consuming way more than what we really need. And to raise these animals, we are using up resources which would otherwise be used for more justified means. For example, we have to question, why do we have this hungry population on our planet, especially for us as Indians, because India is home to 1/4 of the global hungry population. While as per data, India is also one of the leaders in production of food grains. Then what is the reason? And that's because we are diverting most of our food grains towards feed for animals, which is either fed to animals in India or it is exported in a big way. And these systems are also exacerbating the climate crisis and then causing food insecurity. And the ones who are really impacted first in the line are the marginalized communities. So I'm sure none of us want to be a part of a system which is not only impacting us, but is also impacting our fellow living beings. And of course, it's whether humans or non-humans, we are basically supporting a system which is exploitative. And it's our pockets which is deciding that. So if we were to change our choices from animal-based to plant-based food, we would stop supporting any of these wrongs which are happening right now. And today, considering the emergency situation of the climate crisis, this is the most powerful step each one of us can take to stop the growing emissions which are warming the planet with every amount of gas which we're adding to the atmosphere to escalate the warming of the planet. Next. And so as a solutions-based environmental organization, we are working in India with farmers because they're at the core of the movement. They are our providers and they need to be shifted from animal-based agriculture to plant-based agriculture because that is the most sustainable farming practice for the planet and for the farmer themselves. And also for us as consumers, when we support the farmers to move towards natural farming practices, we get access to naturally grown nutrient-dense food, which is very important for our well-being. We have had the experience during COVID-19, how much emphasis has been laid on our food habits, what we should be eating and how it should be toxin-free. And this is going to be the best way to connect with the farmers directly, to source healthy food and also ensure that the farmer is not exploiting farmed animals on his farm, and we give him a helping hand to get out of that system, because it's difficult for him to come out of the system as the government does not support them in any way monetarily or with any schemes. So this is what we can do as individuals, and every individual's action counts. So I'd like to stop my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kolte, for elucidating such complex environmental processes in such simple words. I am certain we will all benefit from your message of moving towards sustainability and standing up for the protection of the environment. Also, a big thanks to you and your team for your very practical solutions to all these issues. Thank you. Mira's College for Girls will be undertaking several social service programs in connection with Sadhu Vaswani's 142nd birthday celebrations. Stationery and grocery items will be donated to Dhanvantri Jnanpith and Swapna Bhumi Kerwadi, respectively. Baby formula and medicines for infants will be donated at Sofosh. Braille sheets will be donated at the Pune Blind School, and baby products will be donated at Bharatiya Samaj Seva Kendra. Sadhu T.L. Vaswani once rightly said, "No nation is truly free until the animal, man's younger brother, is free and happy." In accordance with his teachings, the college inspired several to take the pledge to go meatless. 577 girls have pledged to go meatless for one day. 211 have pledged to be meatless for a week. 101 have pledged to go meatless for a month. 35 have pledged to go meatless for a year, and 436 have pledged to be meatless for lifetime. In addition, the college also hosted an inter-class video making competition on the theme of vegetarianism, which received an overwhelming response from all classes. The 3 winning videos from the competition will be screened before us today. Let us watch the video made by the second runner-up, Ms. Himanshi Ganbir.
We love the earth, it is our planet. We love the earth, it is our home. We love the earth, it is our planet. We love the earth, it is our home.
The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. Sing with me this song to my friends. The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. It is a meatless day. Thank you.
Well done, Himanshi. Thank you for your beautiful message. Now we move on to the video made by the first runner-up of the competition, Ms. Sia Lala.
November 25th is the International Meatless Day. Vegetarianism is not a diet or a fad. It is a choice, a lifestyle choice, a choice for a sustainable future and a better present. We give out so many principles for saving the planet in theory, but what do we actually do? Today we have the power to do our bit for the world. And moral principles apart, vegetarianism is also scientifically proven to have many health benefits. Yes, it is going to be tough, but not impossible. So, let's pledge to embrace vegetarianism.
The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. Sing with me this song to my friends. The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. It is a meatless day. Thank you.
Wonderful. Our girls are truly talented. It is now time to watch the winning video of the competition made by Devashri Joshi, Ume Salma, and Riddhi.
The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. Sing with me this song to my friends. The 25th of November is a day to remember. It is a meatless day. It is a meatless day. Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you, girls, and heartiest congratulations to the winners. We have now come to the end of our program, but we cannot leave without thanking all those who have made this session a success. Our first thanks goes to Krishna Kumari Didi for her kind support and moving message. A sincere thanks to our guests, Ms. Darshana Muzumdar and Ms. Madhvi Kolte, for gracing this event with their presence and for bringing us their insightful and inspiring ideas. Thank you to the dignitaries of the Sadhu Vaswani mission who always support and guide us. A big thanks to the principal in charge, Dr. Jaya Rajgopalan, for her patient guidance and encouragement. We are also very grateful to the technical team headed by Mr. Pranay. Last but never the least, I thank all my fellow faculty members and dear students who have been a wonderful audience today. I hope we all carry the lessons we learned today with us through our lives and live with love and compassion towards all fellow creatures. I end with a reminder to please observe the 25th of November as Meatless Day. Have a good day. Dada Sham.